access for firefighting. So if you're so many feet off the ground, you're so many feet off the ground, irrespective if the first story is made out of non-combustible material.
So we're doing it on the height, and you equate that to 6 floors.
Yes, yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
On this report, I just have to remind ourselves that when we get 100% rental, we've got to think about, it's not the same as having just market rental in there and strata where people are selling it off. The fact that we can even get a reduction and have lower income on it and even lower or equivalent to BC Housing, we have to remember that the developer is not going to realize any cost back and probably for 10 years. And we're lucky that they're even building them. And that's one thing Victoria didn't realize when it came out with all its bills. To talk about rental, they talk about what you can put on a thing, but you're going to have to sell them. So anyhow, I think this is a good one. Coming forward and staff did a good job in negotiating 68 modern ones. Somebody will be able to get in there to reduce rate and the others, and we wish them luck to build as soon as possible. Okay, any other questions, comments? Motion on that? Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Contrary carried. Thanks very much, Craig. And the next item is another housing agreement, affordable housing on the bylaw 10557 to permit the City of Richmond to secure low-end market rental Lemur units, in this case, at 89, 11, 31, 51, and 191 Patterson Road. And that's to go to give first, second, third reading. Greg, anything else to add?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the only thing I wanted to point committee to is on the last page of the agenda package, page 84. So we had previous discussions with council about wanting to capture in the statutory declaration the 3 years of income prior to the stat dec. So we have that now reflected in our templated stat dec table on the last page.
Okay. All right, Cash, you want to comment on this one?
Yes, and it actually is just a bit of a takeoff from that 3-year. We also are looking for a way to determine whether they've moved their assets into someone else's name. So if you can comment on that. And then secondly, if you can comment on where we are in finding, for example, a single entity that's going to look after Lemur.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Heed. On the first point about assets, so we are actively looking at how we can consider assets in the eligible tenant criteria that we would embed in our housing agreements. We're not there yet. We're still kind of looking at how best to capture that. On the potential third-party operator, not necessarily operator, but manager of the Lemur program, we have started the outreach to make sure we understand the scope of questions we have to ask the community to ensure we're getting the services that council wants us to get. So we're in that process right now of identifying the questions. There will be at some point an invite to both our nonprofit operators and our for-profit property managers to come and have a roundtable with city staff to talk about how would you approach a request to manage potentially up to 2,000 Lemur units. Do you have the capacity? What resources do you need, and so on. So we're working on scoping a roundtable, following which we'll do an RFP.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Carol?
Yeah, thank you. When this comes to council next week, can you make it go the other way so we can read it? Because it's really, really tiny. And then further to Councillor Heed's question, are we a year away from having a housing authority in Richmond? Are we 2 years away? Like, how's that looking?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Day, I would say we'll have the roundtable and the RFP will be issued this year.
This year. Okay, so maybe in 2025 we'll have a housing authority that can dig down on these, make sure that the Lemur units are going to the right people. All right, thank you. Okay,
anybody else? Motion on the floor. Who seconded? All those in favor? Contrary carried, with thanks. Okay, great job. Any managers' reports? Yes, who's going to be from? Greg, you're on.
Maybe just very briefly while I'm sitting here, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to introduce, we have a new planner, Renee Tardif.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. Welcome. Good to have you with the team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cooper?
Mr. Chair, I'm very happy to report the next phase of the permit optimization program was launched last week, and it's called sprinkler permits. It appears to be modest in nature, but it does represent a giant leap because it's the first automated permitting that will accept materials that need review. So it will become the foundation of many more complex permit types that will follow in the near future.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Chair? Oh,
Sorry,
behind you, Mr. Chair.
okay. Did you want to jump in before? Okay.
Sure. Thanks. I just maybe as a bit of a follow-up to Councilor's Day question too. I'll just announce that Mr. Russell, Peter Russell, has been appointed as the Director of the Housing Office. So consistent with the previous CAO's report to Council, that Housing Office now formally exists in the org chart under the Deputy CAO Office. And we do have 5-6 staff now under Greg. So we're staffing up and creating that consistent with the CAO's direction and Council's direction on that. So I'm not sure if we're looking at a housing authority per se, but certainly the horsepower we have now is in place to start doing a lot of the detailed analytics behind what Mr. Newman was talking about and others. So stay tuned. We will have new things coming to Council before the end of the year.
Okay, Councillor Heath.
I did have a question for Mr. Cooper
Oh,
before he quickly went away, because he probably knows I'm going to mention the word step code. I just want to, we've had conversations, and I know Councillor Hobbs has had conversations, Councillor McNulty has had conversations, and there's still a lot of confusion out there with the building industry around natural gas into homes. And we know what the province's step code is. For some reason, we want to have our own step code. The timeline for the province, I believe, is 2032 to get to the highest level, and I think we've decided we want to go sooner, which is not a bad thing, but there is so much chatter and confusion. I'm just wondering if you could clarify some of that and what we're doing to get this clarification out to the builders here in Richmond, whether they're multi-units or just single-family residential.
Okay. Through Mr. Chair, I'll be happy to clarify our position. The energy step code is actually an invention of the province. Richmond was one of the early adopters in 2018. And the energy step code, to be clear, is a measure of energy efficiency in the building. It doesn't care if you're burning natural gas or using electricity or have a wood fire stove. It's just a measure of energy performance of your construction. Layered upon that, recently the province came up with a zero carbon step code, which the city adopted, and which is in alignment with Council's directive of reducing greenhouse gases. So, and that is in lockstep as per the provincial design, that if you are building at a step code that's the minimum right now, which is step 3, you will be more restricted in carbon emissions that your home will emit. So in step 3, you will be very, very restricted in the amount of carbon emissions, and you will not be able to heat hot water using gas. And as you go up in energy efficiency in construction, say to step 5, the highest, then there is a higher potential for using natural gas to heat your home and to heat your hot water, because the amount of energy you'll be using is so small. So that translates to a very small amount of emissions that would be given off by the home.
Certainly,
could add, I wanted to
I
add-
appreciate that. And I guess my question now relates to whether our targets are dissimilar from what the province's targets are.
Through the chair, I can speak to that point. When the STEP code was implemented in Richmond, we already had above code requirements. So prior to 2018, we had rezoning policies in city center and for townhouses. So we were already advanced in terms of above code requirements at the STEP code implementation. So we weren't starting at 0. We were already well into step 2 and step 3 in some cases. So that's the part of the rationale why we had an advanced system compared to the province, if you will. The other point I'd like to make is on compliance. Our focus has been on compliance. So on average, 2 to 3 times a year, we call builder breakfasts. They're well attended. Up to 75 to 90 people attend, designers and builders of all sorts. And through those sessions, we educate them, we update them on the different code requirements as they escalate, both the province and the cities. And, you know, having us be in advance of the province allows those builders to be ready, because those changes when the zero carbon step code in the base code is effective 2030, and the efficiency measures that James is talking about is effective 2032. So the push, if you will, the goal with the builders locally is to get them ready for these massive changes in how we build, with some runway between what the province is requiring and what the city is looking for.
How wide is that one runway?
Currently, we're 3 years ahead. So by 2027 in the OCP, there's a policy that notes we'll be at the top levels of the step by 2027, but we'll likely continue to have options. So right now, we have 3 options for small builders: townhouse and single detached. You can go step 3 with I think it's step 3. I have to check the records, but
Correct.
which would be a low carbon system, no gas. But you have options to get up to step 5, which is a much higher efficient building. And in that case, like James was saying, you could put some gas in that if you chose. You might not actually need it in this case because the building is so efficient.
Thank you.
Okay, just for the record though, for today and tomorrow, we do allow natural gas, correct?
There's no ban on gas.
There's no ban on
Yeah,
gas.
it's-
I think that needs to get out there. I think we have heard, and I'll go to Councilor Hobson in a minute, but we have heard how Richmond says, no gas, no gas, no gas. We got to put water pumps in, et cetera, et cetera. And I think we need it. So how long, at what time, when will we say no gas? 2030?
That'll be the province's decision ultimately, because the code, what we understand, if the province stays on that commitment and that plan, by 2030, you'll have carbon neutral buildings.
I think we need to get that out there. Okay, I don't know if others are feeling the same, but we've got to get it out to builders. Yes, we're ahead, and we will be ahead there. Let's hope the province will catch up and apply it throughout the province, which we know we won't, but thank you for that. Okay, Andy, sorry, but I felt it followed right on his tails.
Yeah, no, that was good, and thank you, and through the chair, thanks. I don't know if you'll have this information, but since the topic came up, very ballpark, say you're building a house, what would be the per square footage increase in cost between, say, level 3 or step code 3 and step code 5? What would be, do you have any idea even
Yes, we do.
Okay.
The percentage increase would be in the value of the skin of the building, in all the walls and the roof, and under under the slab, the floor, and it's about 30% more for
About
that
30%.
portion. But those are about 15 to 20% of the cost of the entire home. So it's not 30% extra for the home. It's 30% extra of 15% of the home.
Okay, that's an interesting number. And just one last question, if we can. One of the concerns out there in the community and in the media, you hear a lot about it too, is electricity production. You know, you hear that we imported 20% from for BC's use for hydro. And so how would you address that with people's concerns about having enough electricity for that and for other things too? And also the cost of electricity. That's a concern for people because people's experience has been that heating a home with electricity has been much more expensive than with gas, even though it's cleaner. It's all about affordability and for some people too, right? Can you comment on that briefly or quickly?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, there's a recommendation, I wouldn't say recommendation, but direction, I think, or advisement from the mayor, I think in the last planning committee to potentially have BC Hydro come and present to the committee. And
right.
so staff are going to work on that to see if that's possible and have them explain their plans. They've presented at Metro Vancouver and a few other cities regionally, and I think that message from them is better to tell.
Okay.
But I would say that the trajectory for electricity is, you know, there's demand growing, but there was direction from the province to add 3,700 gigawatt hours to the system just last year. So, you know, they're expanding. There's a RFP out right now to expand. I think they're expecting wind and solar to be predominantly most affordable options. So there is growth in electricity demand, but also growth in electricity infrastructure as well.
Okay.
But I think, you know, it's probably best to have Hydro come and explain that as well.
Yeah, it's a big topic and I find it, you know, complicated. So thank you for that.
Can we go to Laura on the video? Laura, you're
Thanks.
on.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question on that too. Sorry for if you already said this, but it's the new buildings will need to have no gas in them by 2030?
That is the plan of the province.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it depends on them bringing the code forward annually to do so. But that's what the Clean BC plan notes.
Nice. And what is the plan for existing homes?
Through the chair. Through the chair to Councillor Gillanders, I believe that the province is working on a retrofit building code for that, but at the moment there is no plan for any compelling of existing structures to decarbonize emissions.
And then in 2030, if an existing home got a permit to do a renovation that was like a full, you know, still a renovation, but basically a whole new house there, would that have to be included in the step, in that new step code?
Through the chair to Councillor Gillanders, short answer, we don't know. There are some things like seismic upgrading that we take our cue from the national building code, so that if the overall value of the renovation is beyond 25%, then seismic upgrading shall be required. So I suspect if there is a retrofit code, there has to be some sort of provisions concerning major renovations and additions.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I couldn't be here last week. I got stuck behind the tunnels. I was trying to call in from my car. But I did ask about the hydro situation. I've heard from a number of builders that you build a house, brand new house with electric everything, car chargers, everything, and then you can't get the 400 amp service. Apparently you can only get 100, 200, or 400. There isn't 300. And if you need more than hydro can provide, then you can pay them a fee for them to upgrade the system, which could be $40,000, $50,000. Would it be possible to have a hydro come and explain what they're doing to make that problem go away?
Yeah, I think that would be, through the chair, I believe that would be part of the messaging we'd like to ask from them to share. Council wouldn't be aware of this at this point. However, BC Hydro is working on what they're calling a extension distribution policy, and that's going to go to the BC Utilities Commission. And that's where they're intending to revise how they make these connections, which would be much more affordable. So that's forthcoming, and the city will look to council for direction on how we intervene in that process. But it is positive. Staff in other regions have been consulted by BC Hydro, and they're aware of these issues, and they want to bring forward a resolution for those. But it must go through the BC Utilities Commission.
Do we have a timeline on that?
What we understand at this point is in June to July timeframe, they'll be going to.
So fairly soon.
That's correct, yeah.
So is it that they had the old technology to upgrade the grid system and now they're trying a new, maybe more affordable technology?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, I don't know if it's a technology as much as how they amortize those cost connections, how they recover costs for that connection. So I think the intention will be to spread those costs out just differently than they're currently required to do.
Well, that sounds far more fair. I'll be looking very forward to that report. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Okay. All right, Ms. Duggan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to provide a brief update to members of committee that participants of the city's recreation fee subsidy program are now eligible to apply for the Lime Access program. This is a discount program operated by Lime Inc. for access to lower income customers to the Lime e-scooter program. And participants are now able to use their recreation fee subsidy approval letter from the city as the component of demonstrating their eligibility for that program.
Great, good stuff. Any questions on that? Thank you very much. Okay, who's next? Who's moving? That it? Should we stay for another move adjournment? We're adjourned. Okay, we got the Public Works meeting now.
Okay. All right, call the Public Works Transportation Committee meeting to order. Do I have a motion on the minutes, please? And seconded? Thank you. All those in favor? Perfect. The next committee meeting will be tentatively on June 19th at 4 o'clock here in Council Chambers. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? I would like to make one, the Morey Bridge, the swing bridge going to Sea Island, and I'd like to make that item 3A. And I believe, Councillor McNulty, you had an addition as well?
Signage.
Signage in Steventon, that would be 3B. Are there any other additions or deletions?
Chair, I was going to ask, oh, sorry. Did Cash had his hand up?
Why don't we just deal with Councillor Heed first, Councillor Galanders. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Heed.
Mine relates to someone that's inquiring, and I could do it under the general manager's report, under a demolition of a house and how many people are actually notified with respect to that rather than just signage. I think most of us on council are aware of it.
Yes, we all got that email. So that'll be 3C. It'll be demo
On freshwater.
on freshwater. Okay. And then Councillor Glanders, 3D. What would you like to add to the agenda?
I had a couple questions from people about Gilbert and Steveston. So that could be in managers' reports as well, or just ask, whatever you suggest, just about the digging up of all the infrastructure again. Just wanted to get an update on that. And then there's also a suggestion about possible traffic alternatives on Steveston Highway near Mortfield Gate that I wanted to bring up.
Okay, let's make that 3E then. So what was the gate there?
Mortfield.
Mortfield, okay. Mortfield Gate traffic, okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Are there any other additions or deletions? Oh, Councillor Wolf, we're on a roll here.
Well, it was going to be a question during manager's report, but I think I'll just tack it in here. So 3F could be a question on the BC Fed Connecting BC plan.
BC Fed Connecting
BC plan.
BC Plan, okay. We'll let you explain what that is to us.
I will then, thanks.
Okay, any other additions or deletions? Okay, well, let's rock it through the report then. Number 1 is the 2024 Safety Initiatives, and we have Sonia Hingoria who's going to speak to us on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing further to add to the report, and staff are available to answer questions.
Excellent, excellent. Do we have any questions? Councillor Wolf?
Yeah, thank you. So I had 2 questions through the chair to staff. One is just to get clarification, because the power was out in, that'll be the next item. Okay, sorry, only question I have then for this report is on page 12, it highlights under the middle of the page, road network safety screening study, and the second bullet is number 5, road and Westminster Highway intersection upgrade. And it mentions that the project will involve removing one channelized right turn island and the removal of merged lanes for it. Could you tell us right now which of the corners that the channelized lane will be removed? Because there's more than one right now. Would it be the one that's closest to the Richmond Nature Park?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, it is the corner of the northwest quadrant of the intersection.
Okay, so that is the one at the Nature Park corner then, northwest. And then my follow-up question, now that I have that clarified, do we also have plans then for that corner to put in full sidewalks? Because the Richmond Nature Park is currently undergoing major renovation. When there's events and there's overflow parking, we ask people to park a ways away and walk to the nature park, where right now Westminster Highway basically has no shoulder for people to walk on. They're walking on the side of Westminster Highway to get to the entrance to the nature park. So is this intersection upgrade, would it also include a full sidewalk on that corner and a bus shelter and bus, because right now the bus bench is right on the flat ground of Westminster Highway?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I don't have the specific details with me at the moment. We can certainly provide that information to you after this meeting.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. That's all.
Great, that could just be in the form of a memo. Okay, Councillor Wolf is done. Is there anybody else who wants to speak to item number 1?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, just a quick question. It's not in here, but it's appropriate. Number 6 road. What are we doing on number 6 road in terms of the road itself, in terms of the solidity of it and the asphalt, the shoulders, and also the speed on number 6 road? Are we doing anything along there? The few people that do live along 6 road find it's a Le Mans 500 from one end to the other. And have we had many complaints other than to us?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, I'm not aware of complaints related to that section of roadway. Absolutely, that information can be forwarded to staff to review in further detail. With respect to safety, the speed limit on number 6 road was reduced last year from 60 kilometers per hour to 50 kilometers per hour.
We probably need to have some enforcement out there. I'm not on the committee, but I know the people out there would love to have it referred to staff to have a look at it. And I mean, it's beveled down. I would never speed on 6 road myself because you never know, and all you've got is a 40-foot ditch on the side if you miss, and you're not coming out of it.
We've got a staff member that might
Go
be able
ahead.
to
Just
offer
an update through the chair to Councillor McNulty. 6 road between Cambie and Bridgeport is scheduled to be repaved this summer through our 2024 paving program. So
What about Cambie to Stevenson Highway?
I have to double check. I do not believe that's in the direct plans, but save for some areas around Blundell that were recently addressed through the canal stabilization program, but we can report back with the long-term
Could
plan
you?
for 6.
Okay, good. Record in the minutes.
Yep,
for that.
so
Thank you.
we'll get a memo
Good.
on that then. Perfect.
Yep, great.
Thank you. And I don't see any other further speakers, so do I have a motion to accept the report? And a seconder? Okay, good. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Item number 2 is the ICBC City of Richmond Road Improvement Program 2024 update, and we have Beata Ng speaking to us today. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I have nothing to add. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Councillor Wolf, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, I have two questions on this. One is, so the proposed 2024 City ICBC Road Improvement Program projects total just under 18,000. How can we get that to be doubled? How can we get the amount of money for projects that ICBC contributes to? How could we get more? Are we limited because of the size of our city? Could we be pitching more ideas?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, if I'm understanding the question correctly, the program is determined based on what projects we think are eligible for funding from ICBC. So the key thing from ICBC are these are projects that need to be completed over the coming year. So these are the projects that we've identified, and so it really is dependent on the size of our capital program.
Okay, thanks. Then just to follow up on that one, then the last item, our attachment was about traffic calming measures around schools. Could we, because there's like 38 school sites, public school sites, could we not just give the whole list of all the things that have been identified as safety concerns at the school sites to this improvement program?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we work closely together with the school principals to identify what the schools actually need in terms of calming measures and what they would support. And so that's how we put them in the program.
Okay, yeah, I could just comment on that then. Is a lot of what the proposals are really feel like things happening at intersections, but a lot of traffic incidents don't just happen at intersections, they happen at slow-moving school zones as well. So I think we're not really stuck at only getting a total of nearly 18,000, we should be really pitching a whole lot more projects in the next year to get them checked off. The last question I had, just a more simple one. The installation of the UPS, the uninterruptible power supply, could you just comment on what that does? So in Hamilton, we had a power outage last night. So if those intersections, and Hamilton must have the most power outages in the city, but not all of their main intersections have these UPS systems. So the UPS system would basically mean that even if the power's out, the intersection lights are working as normal or in a different manner.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, yes, the intersection signals would be working as normal if there's the UPS system.
Okay, then I would, I don't know, I probably can't do it now, but if staff take note that let's get more of those at more of our major intersections. If we don't have them already and we can rack up the cost on this program, let's do it. Thanks.
Maybe just a memo on what the plan is for upgrading those other intersection lights to make sure that they work when there's a power outage.
Yes, we can do that.
Good, thank you very much. We have Councillor Heed next.
Maybe I can just
Oh.
expand on that a little bit.
Okay, Mr. Heed.
The UPS system is part of our capital program that's given to council every year. And there is a program to actually complete the whole city in a certain period of time. I can't remember exactly what that period of time is at this point at this moment. But if it's council's desire and they direct us to, we can certainly speed that process up.
Maybe a memo on that would be helpful. Yeah, let's see where that takes us. Thank you. Councillor Heed.
Yes, and I thought I'd raise this now because the next item, I'm going to talk about this too. But before we actually possibly approve the recommendations here, I need to ask a question about previously approved capital project, and it's going to relate to Cambion 5 Road. And if I go look at page 23, you've got a total for Westminster, Cambie, 5-4 Road, and Westminster 2 Road of $6,960,000. And then in the report or the following agenda item, we're going to be asking for additional money for Cambion 5 Road. So the question I have is, of that $6,980,000 that was previously approved under a capital projects program, how much of that was for Cambion number 5 Road intersection upgrade?
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, the approved funding for Cambion 5 at the moment is $2.76 million, and that's the component that's included in this.
So would that have been what then council approved in 2019 for capital projects for 2020? Because I believe that's how long this has been in the system.
Yeah, as a liaison to Cambie Community Center, I recall them bringing it up every single time I came to a meeting. So maybe
You blame them.
Yeah. Can you update us on the timeline of Cambie and number 5 Road? Oh, here we go.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. So obviously pursuant to the next agenda item and the amended budgets,
True.
the Cambion 5 intersection project has been put out to market for pricing. And if the budgets are to be amended, we can award that contract imminently and begin construction as soon as July.
So the timeline on that would be for completion?
And the duration of construction is approximately 6 months. So,
So my question though relates to whether this or what amount of money was put aside in the 2020 capital projects budget for Cambion 5 Road. And are we taking that into account when we're asking for the budget now?
Mr. Erb?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, yes, effectively we are. So the normal process, we bring forward annually the recommended capital projects to council for approval. When they're approved for that budget year, the typical, we try to deliver most projects within, I would say, a 3 to 5 year time frame. Obviously, smaller, simpler projects that don't require a lot of detailed design consultation can be done faster. Certainly, number 5 Road in Cambie has had an extended timeline that wasn't originally anticipated as we encountered through the detailed design, the property requirements, and then had to go through that process with acquiring the property through the school board. So that certainly added significant time. But we don't actually start doing detailed design on the project until it's an approved project. So most of the approved capital projects will have an original date of approval some years ahead of the actual construction and completion window, if that was along the lines of what your question was asking.
Would we have put those funds in a particular account, or would it just be in a general capital account and used for other money back to 2020?
Depending on the actual funding source, finance will, for longer term projects, for instance, the Works Yard, where we're expecting to expend large sums of money over a period of up to 10 years, council will approve portions of that and finance won't actually allocate that capital in the given budget year. They'll put it in investment vehicles or what have you, or keep it in the reserves. So they're constantly monitoring how the program's being delivered by staff and identifying the actual cash flow requirements in a given year. So depending on how that cash flow is working with a given project, they'll be doing different things with the funding sources, but the actual funding will be allocated and earmarked out of the funding source, typically our reserves or utility funding.
And I guess this will lead into the next agenda item. Thank you.
We don't have any other speakers, I don't think, so all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, good. Well, that takes us to the much anticipated item number 3, Cambie and number 5 road intersection upgrade, number 2 road multi-use pathway, and the active transportation improvement program 2022 project update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing further to add. We're available to answer any questions.
Okay. Councillor Heed, would you like to start us off?
So when I look at the financial impact, Cambie Road and number 5 road intersection upgrade, we've secured, or we're asking, I'm not sure if we secured it, or we're asking for additional external funding. So the project, the total budget will be $3,450,000. Am I correct in assuming that? We haven't spent a considerable amount so far on that. That's the project in its totality.
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, that's correct.
And have we secured the money from the other sources, the external funding?
Yes, all the funding that's identified here has been secured.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think if anybody wants to know more about that, if we look at page 29, it's got the breakdown of where the money came from. Yes, any other questions? Yeah, so when I first read this, I was a little horrified because each budget had gone up so much. Cambie and 5 road went from 2.6 million to almost 5 million. The number 2 road multi-use pathway started at 2.4 million, is now 3.1 million. And the active transportation was 750,000, now it's 1.5 million. But after talking to staff today, I learned that through various funding from, I believe it was the, I've got it written here, it was the federal government, provincial government, and TransLink, we were able to make up those increases. Were most of those increases due to increased project scope or just increased cost?
Madam Chair, the increases are mostly due to increased cost due to inflation and other pressures in the market.
So I guess the moral of the story is to plan the project, build a project, get on with the project before the prices escalate. So, which is hard to do because it all takes time. Okay, any other questions on item number 3? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? Great. Okay, so I'm just going to pass these out. Bill, if you can pass that down. And pass that down, please, Jack. Thank you. So as people may know, we approved the Duck Island proposal, which is 3.5 million square feet. It's going to be built over the next 10 to 15 years. So I had someone bring forward concerns about the Morey Channel Swing Bridge, which apparently is very fragile and from time to time breaks down and they can't get parts for it. So this person who wrote into us that I've just handed out the letter has met with the operator and learned about some of the concerns. So I was wondering if staff could update us on the process regarding that bridge. It's not a Richmond bridge. It is a provincial bridge, I believe, or maybe it's federal, but let's find out.
Madam Chair, that's correct. This piece of infrastructure is under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Yep.
I'll add that they are currently conducting a planning study. As Council may recall, that was supported by the city in June of 2022. The ministry will be developing options for a preliminary business case for this project, and that business case is anticipated in spring of 2025. And as this planning work proceeds, staff will be providing updates at key milestone points to Council.
So depending on how that analysis goes, I suppose that if it needs to be replaced or repaired or whatever, that would happen well in advance of this mega project being built at Duck Island?
Through the chair, we haven't received a schedule. The project is still in the early days at the planning phase to identify the existing issues and the context of the site. We haven't received a schedule with respect to anything beyond a business case being developed next spring.
Okay, so there's really not much point in writing the provincial government at this point because they have nothing to tell us. They're still working on it. Is that right?
Through the chair, that's correct. At this point, we can continue to provide council updates at key points along the process. If anything changes or there's a significant update to inform council about, we'll certainly keep you guys abreast.
Yeah, it wasn't on my radar, but I was appreciative that the citizen brought it to our attention so we can at least keep an eye on it. It would be devastating if that bridge was not operational already with the traffic we have today, let alone once there's development in that area. All right, that was it for that. And then Councillor McNulty, you wanted to talk about signs.
Just quickly, and I'm not sure which department it is, but because it involves traffic and approaching Steveston, as we know, Steveston's very historic, and I think we need to be looking at signage in Steveston, and in particular at 1 in Chatham. When you look at the just off to the right, you hit the stoplight there beside the ANF and also the credit union. There is a wet noodle sign there that says "Welcome to Steveston" if you look high enough up on it. And given that Steveston is historic, and some of our other historic places, we should be putting historic signs up. Whether it be Gary Point or Britannia Shipyard, or historic Sea Island, and it should be called Historic Steveston. Okay, and I don't know which department to refer it to, so I was hoping to refer it here because it does involve traffic, and we should have a policy, and we should be working with the Steveston Historical Society, and I'm not sure who's liaison to that, Tourism Richmond, and whatever. We keep talking about it. We want to preserve Steveston, et cetera. Nobody knows how to get there. Nobody knows what it's all about. And if we want to educate people, we should say it's historical.
All right.
So maybe you can throw some light on it and direct me in the right direction.
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, I'd be happy to help, but this may be a question better posed to our colleagues in economic development who are looking at the overall citywide wayfinding plan.
Okay, so how do we make a referral of this to them?
Would it require referral or simply an inquiry with the Economic Development Office?
Through the chair, that's at the discretion of committee. We can happily
like
pass along the request to our teammates in economic development to provide you an update via email or a memo after this meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to have that recorded in the minutes, so we have direction, we don't lose it.
Maybe Councillor Hobbs has got a motion he wants to make.
Oh, no, I didn't have a motion, sorry.
Oh,
I'm not
okay,
on the
okay.
committee. I was just going to echo Councillor McNulty's comments, and I think there is something being developed now with wayfinding through different areas, and there's central business and heritage as part of it.
But I think we can add to it.
Yeah.
And I think the direction should be that it be added to their list of good things to do.
I forget if it was economic development or community and parks and services that are working on it, but yeah, you could add.
But I'd like it recorded if I can. If not, I'll bring it up Monday night to record it.
Well, what's the position of council? Do you want to just do some inquiries between now and the council meeting, and then we can make a decision at that point? Yeah, okay. Let's do some inquiries and reach out to tourism and whatnot. Okay, perfect. 3C is demolition on Freshwater. Who was it that put that one in? That was Councillor Heed.
Yeah, and I think every one of us knows what's going on there, and the complainant was upset. She lives in the area. There is a house being demolished. She was not notified. I think she's only about 3 houses away from the one that was demolished. And when she made inquiries, she was told that they only have to place a sign in front of the house that's being demolished, and it could be 1 to 2 days before demolition. And I believe they have to advise 3 houses away. I don't know the bylaw, I'm just going by what the person explained to us, is she would like to see it expanded, and it makes total sense, and not leave it up to the demolition company to be a good neighbor, a good business, and notify everyone within the area. But I think we've got to do something. It makes no sense to the way it is. I think we should be able to notify the entire neighborhood that something's being demolished.
So I think this might be a motion for the planning committee, because when we did the original good neighbor policy, which did everything from building site noise and demolition, that was through the planning committee. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. But given that we have our learned staff here, maybe they could provide advice as to how we would be best able to deal with that. Would we need a revision to the policy that we have in place now? Or is this just something that we can get a memo on to find out the best way to move forward? What is the policy when someone is demoing a house in terms of notification?
Yeah, through Madam Chair, there is a requirement that the adjacent neighbors are notified. Now, having said that, the signage is there to state the hours of operation. The demolition contractors are told do's and don'ts as to minimize vibration. Sometimes, because of Richmond soils, it's impossible. It's an evil that you cannot avoid. When something is demolished, a neighbor will experience some vibration. Now, we have all sorts of rules and regulations about how the street has to be tidy. We have all sorts of regulation that the street has to be washed of the mud, and that at the end of every day. We can take it on advisement of committee wishes. Perhaps, may I suggest this be made in planning committee, since that's where we work, that we have rules as to written notifications and scheduling of demolition times to adjoining residences.
Yeah, would that be okay with you, the chair of the planning committee, Councillor McNulty, if we can add this to the agenda? Or?
Yeah, but it's already there for 3 houses. We need to expand it to the neighborhood somehow.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, I was just going to make the comment. I think we can put it on the agenda in June. I think we have to have when you talk about adjacent, I had a house, 1 house away from me, not down. Okay, I'm not adjacent to it, but I am on Pete, and I feel every vibration that they come, including every bus every day. So what does it mean? Adjacent beside, adjacent across the street, adjacent left, right? I think we need that circular
notification.
50 meters maybe, or 30 meters, I don't care what it is, but a definite amount that it's not just one beside and the one across, given the nature of building in Richmond. I think we can put it on the agenda and come up with it through Mr. Cooper and whatever that would be satisfactory to everybody. And at least the notification be given there. And when, maybe it should be a week in advance, maybe than the day before. Trucks go by my place with their back up and take out my cable and my electricity. Okay, because they put it up. I can tell you some stories. And they're a block away, or half a block away. So I think we can deal with it.
Well, we'd be happy to receive the referral.
Yeah, in anticipation of this, you can maybe start thinking about it before the next planning committee meeting. So perfect. And actually, the same thing happened to me. They were tearing a house down early one morning, and I thought a plane had crashed in my neighborhood. I was absolutely terrified. So I think it's a good thing to put on the agenda. Thank you for bringing it forward, Councillor Heed. All right, 3D, I believe that's you, Councillor Galanders, infrastructure in Steveston.
Thank you. No, it was so it's Steveston and Gilbert, the sewer works that are being done. I'm just wondering if anybody can speak to that and give an update. I mean, I understand this is a Metro Vancouver project, right? So they're probably in charge of the construction schedule, but we do list it on our website. And I was just having some questions about, right at Steveston and Gilbert, about a month ago it was dug up and then it was finished. It looked like it was finished and it was covered up. And then 2 weeks ago it was dug up again. And then yesterday it was dug up again. So I'm just getting some questions as to why it needs to be dug up 3 times in the same spot.
Through the chair to Councillor Galander. So yes, this is all part of the Metro Vancouver Gilbert Trunk Sewer upgrade. Some of the works that have been happening were some of the enabling works. So the city crews were in there over the last month doing some water main relocations. Once that work was completed, then that allows Metro Vancouver to do their work. They've started now doing the construction of their sewer pipe. So that is going through the intersection. And then that'll continue going northwards on Gilbert.
So it's sort of contrasting things that we had to dig it up to do something that we needed to do so that they could dig it up to do something they needed to do.
Through the chair to Councillor Grounds, that's correct. Yeah, there's mostly enabling works that allow Metro Vancouver to have clear access through the intersection.
Okay. So is there any, do we attempt to do it all in the same week so that we don't have to keep covering it up and digging it up again? It just seems like such a waste of resources to keep covering it up and digging it up. But I understand it'd probably be hard to coordinate, but do we try to coordinate that?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, yeah, so these works are coordinated. We also want to leave an ample window from when the city crews complete their works, and if there's any other challenges, that allows Metro Vancouver to have a clear window for them to do their works.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that explanation. I'll pass that on.
And the last one, nope, it's not the last one. 3E is the Mortfield Gate traffic issue. Was that you, Councillor Galanders, I think?
Yes, that's me again. Yeah. Thank you. So this is sort of in relating to construction of the multi-use pathway on Steveston Highway. When we're traveling eastbound and where the right-hand lane is being closed for the construction near the temple, during busy times in the morning and in afternoon rush hour, there's a suggestion to have a no left turn into Mortfield Gate from there, because if somebody has to turn left there, then there's a whole lineup of cars behind them for a very long time, and there's no way to get around the left turner. I'm just wondering if that's something that we can look at, and obviously only if there's an easy way to do a right and a turnaround and a left back for the people that live in Mortfield Gate that's nearby. But if you could analyze that, possibly consider it.
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, we can certainly monitor it for a day or two and see if this is a problem that's manifesting itself in any real way. And if it is, we can certainly consider something in that regard. But certainly the folks that live in Mortfield Gate will probably feel very inconvenienced if we do that. So we'd certainly want to make sure that there's a real traffic issue and not just an intermittent one that's causing like 30 seconds worth of delay or something like that.
Agreed.
Okay, that answers your question then? Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, 3F, Councillor Wolf, you wanted to speak about the BC plan?
Yeah, so it's from the BC Federation of Labour, so BC Fed, and their plan is, the full name of it is Connecting BC, a 10-year vision and investment plan for public transit throughout BC. It has a number of highlights that I think would be beneficial for transit in Richmond. There's no official endorsement that I've found yet from any councils in the region, but there's some individual mayors who've endorsed it. And I just found out about it, so it's too late to bring notice of motion to have it on the agenda for us to consider doing that. But I might bring it forward at the June meeting. I just wanted to ask staff, are they aware of it? Were they at all involved in the consultation of it, or does staff endorse it? So any comments from staff on that before I bring it forward in June?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I'm not aware of that specific program or plan that you're speaking of. We may know it by another name, but certainly we can have a look at it and get back to you.
Okay, great, that's all.
Can we ask you to forward that to all of council and staff, please?
I will do, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, I'd be interested in reading that. Okay, are there any managers' reports? Seeing none, okay, I think we can call for adjournment. Second, all those in favor? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.